Folks, we're at 6:30. So welcome to the October meeting of your Louisville Town Council. Glad you all could be with us tonight. If you're watching us on TV6, Hank, are we on Facebook yet?
No, we're still having difficulties with Facebook. But we're
okay,
on
so tonight you're watching us on TV6 if you're watching us. Welcome. We're glad you're taking time to learn a little bit more about your Louisville Town Council and the things that we do to benefit our community and you. With that, we'll take a roll call this evening of our council members. Mr. Smitherman.
Present.
Mr. Franklin.
I'm here. I had to find the mute button for the first time in a while.
Ms. Foster.
Present.
Ms. Hunt.
Happy Thursday.
Who did I miss? Dr. Sadler is running late. Oh, Ms. Welch, you don't have your picture up yet.
Oh, yeah, I'm having to use my cell phone. Just got off the Spectrum. We have an internet problem. So, but I'm here. I'll try to get that to come up. Thank you.
I'll just recognize you as Jane.
All right.
Very good. Bo, will you be so kind to lead us in our invitation this evening?
I'd be honored to. Let's pray. God our Father, we give you thanks for this beautiful fall day, and we look forward to the cooler days that are to come, all a gift of you. As you are the giver of every good and perfect gift. And for that, we give you thanks. We give you thanks for this town. We give you thanks for the residents of this town. We thank you for the town staff that does so much hard work to make this town work well. And we give you thanks finally for the elected body. Give them wisdom, give them strength, give them courage tonight as they go through the agenda of the town. Be with us during this difficult time of COVID and help us all to get back together very soon. We ask all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Bo. Ms. Hunt, you have the opportunity to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. So if you all can find a flag or at least maybe face Town Square and our memorial, we could be close.
There's one.
There's a flag.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all. Very good. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our agenda in front of us, and that was sent to us earlier. Ms. Walker, have we had any additions to the agenda since you sent it out? Ms. Walker.
Okay, there it is. I had a hard time getting it unmute. I believe everything that is under new business for the ordinances have been discussed previously, so I did not highlight those. It may have been last month or even a previous month. The only thing that I have highlighted on the last information I sent out this morning was that the ECSC committee met on Tuesday and they changed their meeting time. So I've added a calendar update that needs to be approved.
Very good. That'll be new business C.
Yes.
Okay. Council members, any other changes or additions you'd like to make this evening? With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Ms. Welch makes the motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the second. Any discussion? Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Hank, how about walking us through our consent agenda tonight?
Okay, this evening's consent agenda consists of 3 items. We have resolution 2021066 for the acceptance and approval of monthly financials for 2 months ending August 31st, 2021. The approval of town council briefing minutes from September 2nd, 2021. And lastly, the approval of town council meeting minutes from September 9th, 2021.
Very good. Ms. Orell, you know the question I always ask.
We're in very good shape. And I think I mentioned last week that I have written the financial statements for last fiscal year and I've submitted them to the auditor. So they're working on the audit right now.
Very good. Any questions for Hank on the consent agenda?
Just 2 quick things. I noticed a couple of typos in the September 9th meeting, and they're minor. One is in the 1C point V, it should be an S in between agenda A amended or as amended. And then in 3.2, I believe it should be corrected from Warner to Warren in 3.2A. Other than that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Very good. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Ms. Foster makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, the consent agenda are items that routinely come before the council. Any council member can ask for any individual item to be pulled off and discussed separately, or generally speaking, because they're matters of routine importance or routine process, we take them all together. PJ, good evening.
Good evening. How y'all doing?
Great.
Good.
Can you Hank, can you pull up the stats for on the spreadsheet, and we'll go over that first?
All right.
All right. As you can see, we're at 568 compared to 608 last year. Security tech checks 287 versus 272. 35 traffic violations compared to 61, and then 10 alarms. That's kind of the lowest number I've seen in a while for alarms. And then our compared to 13 for last year, and priority response time at 5.4. So nothing really stands out. If you look at the calls for service detail, no string of break-ins, knock on wood. I do have a couple different Halloween tips that I'd like for you. If Hank, if you'll pull that next sheet up, this is what this was going to be this month, since we're October and talking about Halloween. Kind of a good rule of thumb, if you think about scare safe, I would encourage everybody during Halloween, especially if you're going to be out, let's just slow down and use an extra little bit of time. And whether that be for people walking or people traveling, driving in the neighborhoods, we've got a lot of neighborhoods, and if it's warm, you know, there's going to be a lot of foot traffic. So just some safety tips that we're going to put up, and we'll try to make that available to everybody that wants to participate. So just some couple different things. Stay in groups. Costumes should be well fitted and flame resistance. Always test your makeup, because you don't want to put your makeup on and it break you out. And I guess that's more of a women's area. So, and examine all your treats. There is mean people out in the world. And if you find something that's unwrapped, just err on the side of caution and throw it away. Make sure that you try to stay on the sidewalks when possible, and avoid these dark houses. Typically, if somebody doesn't have their light on, that means they don't want to be bothered. So let's kind of be respectful for that. And make sure you got flashlights. Parents, if you give your kids flashlights to carry, make sure that you cover with them that it's very important not to shine it in a motorist's eyes, because they got to be able to see. That causes some temporary blindness, and that can be just as dangerous as somebody driving fast through the neighborhood. And most importantly, we want you to enjoy it. And it's an exciting time for the youngsters. And we'll be out patrolling. We'll try to put our lights on if you see us around the neighborhoods. And if you see anything funny going on, don't hesitate to call us, and we'll come check it out. So other than that, Mayor, that's about all I've got.
Very good. Thank you, Sergeant. Any questions for PJ? Once again, you've given us wonderful hints. That's now 6 months in a row that you've managed to come up with something to entertain us. So thank you very much. I know it's you put some work into this.
Absolutely.
Very good. Stacy, you are available to introduce our next presenter, please.
Yes, we have Jonathan Whitehurst with us tonight. Hank, if you'll go ahead and bring him over. I'd like to welcome Jonathan tonight. He is with Kimley Horn, which is the firm that we hired to do our Louisville Tomorrow project that has been ongoing throughout the year. Jonathan has a brief presentation to show you guys, to kind of give you a status update, where we are, where we're going, how the project's going, and everything like that. So I will turn it over to him. And Jonathan, I think you should be able to go ahead and share your screen to get started.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry, I had to turn off the background. My daughter got a hold of my Zoom account and turned on a background on me. So one of the joys of this Zoom world that we live in. Let me share screens real quick. If I can just get confirmation that you can see it.
Yes, you're good.
Perfect. Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be back in front of you all. You last saw me way back in April. And so, you know, that was 6 months ago. And I can confirm that quite a bit of work has been done on both the park plan and the comprehensive plan. And so what we thought we would do today is kind of go through, give you an update on where things stand, and let you know where we go from here. We're still on track from our original schedule, but I'm sure if you're like me, you might have forgotten kind of what that schedule was. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So I've got a series of slides here. I certainly welcome if you all want to kind of stop me as I'm going to chime in and ask any questions. Otherwise, we'll leave some time at the end here for some questions and some answers. What I'd like to do is start off with just a little bit of background. So we began back in March. You saw me in April. We're doing 2 plans at once. We'll talk about that in just a second as a reminder. Today we're going to
I think his computer froze.
Did it freeze?
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you now.
Okay. Well, so we began in March. We're looking to have this wrapped up in February of next year, so just a few months from now. So as a reminder, we're working on 2 plans, but it's a coordinated process. And so we've got the comprehensive plan and we've got the park plan. What I do, just as a quick date on the
Are you there, Jonathan?
That's been put together is going to, yes.
Jonathan,
okay. It's freezing. It's kind of like blotchy going in and out.
If you have any other users in your house, you may want to ask them to maybe disconnect for just a bit.
Okay. Let me do that real quick. I apologize for that. Emma.
I know how
that is. Did you see Dr. Sadler come in?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
6:39 he came in.
All right. Off to a rocky start.
That's all right.
Okay. Yeah, between the Zoom background and eating up my bandwidth, I'm going to have a chat with my 10-year-old. Yeah. So real quick, on the park plan side of things, we're working through the adoption process. That plan is kind of in draft format now. We gave our first presentation to the park board just this past Monday, and we're looking to have that in front of them for adoption on the 8th of next month. And then the way that will come to you all right after the park board approves that, we're going to get that in your hands and give you about a month to review that before it would come before you all on December 9th for adoption. My colleague Laura Hamilton is leading that process, and so you'll see her as part of that process. So shifting gears to the comprehensive plan, wanted to kind of point out a distinction between the land use plan and the Unified Development Ordinance. because there's an order of operations here that's really important. So we're going through the process of creating a vision, setting a set of guiding statements, if you will, and that's all leading into the land use plan itself. And now that land use plan is going to provide that snapshot and help, provide Stacy and you all the guidance that you need as development decisions are being contemplated. And then that future land use map is also going to serve as the starting point for a variety of topical framework plans. We'll talk a little bit about that at the very end of the presentation. But one of the nice things about this order is that the land use plan and the land use future land use map is really going to set you up for the Unified Development Ordinance rewrite that is just around the corner. So we're kind of setting the plan in place, and then the regulatory environment will come with that UDO update and the zoning map that will occur over the year that follows the adoption of the future land use plan. So the process, we talked a little bit about this back in April. It's a relatively straightforward planning process. We've kind of sketched out the 5 steps that you see there. The community characteristics, that's the understanding of existing conditions. We developed the vision and guiding statements based on quite a bit of community involvement, community input. We'll talk about that in a second. We put together a growth strategy, and now we're kind of transitioning from that growth strategy, which you'll see tonight, into the development of those topical framework plans, one of which is your future land use map. And then we've got to put together an implementation strategy so that staff and the folks outside of town hall have an understanding about how we go about getting this plan implemented. So the future land use map really is a critical piece of this whole process. And there's a very defined path that we're taking to get us to that future land use map. The community characteristics, the vision, the input, all of that led to the creation of the conceptual growth ideas. And then we created a map, we refined it. There's a preferred growth strategy. There's a map associated with that. And then where we are now, we're going to start to add even more detail to the land use map, and that'll eventually become your future land use map. And so as we go through the slides today, you'll see kind of this diagram again, so that you can kind of see where we are in the process. But let's talk about engagement. I know when we spoke back in April, and even the very first conversations that I had with Stacy and Hank, it was very clear that community input was going to be a critical part of this process. And we took that to heart and really tried to design a process by which we could have touch points with as many of your residents, of your business owners, of the stakeholders that we could. And so there's a series of steering committee meetings. We've done 2 of 4 of those. Back in May, we held a Stakeholder Symposium. You can kind of see the bottom of the screen there with those pictures. That's a screenshot of some of those stakeholders that we engaged through that process. That was a Zoom meeting. We launched an online survey, great participation through the online survey. And then we have had 2 public workshops. The first public workshop back in May was a virtual workshop. And then back in August, we had a great event at Shallerford Square to collect some input there. We've got this mid-progress review, if you will, for you all on council. And then we will have, of course, a series of presentations for adoption once we come to that point. We'll talk a little bit more about the engagement to come, but it really was, quite a bit of input. I think particularly for a town the size of Louisville, we were very pleased with the amount of engagement, the enthusiasm that we got from those that engaged in the process. So we were very pleased with that. So one of the first conversations that we had with the steering committee was to help us define how do we define success for engagement. And so they talked about, well, it should be the number of people that we engage. It should be, how representative that engagement is. And then at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the engagement, that the input that we collected was of sufficient quality that it could kind of give the credibility and kind of influence the overall process. And so what I thought I would do is just walk through these 3 points. The first one, I mentioned the great amount of participation that we've gotten to date. We call them touch points because some people, take the survey and they also come to a workshop, or they're a stakeholder and then they also came to the workshop. So there's a little bit of double counting there, but we wanted to capture all the people that kind of had their hands on this particular process. We actually calculate the number of data points. And so that 36,500, that's our best estimate as to the number of actual data points that we've collected through this engagement process. And 2,100 comments, I mean, that's quite a bit of open-ended comments for us to read and to take into account as we're trying to design this plan so that it's very specific to Louisville. And so again, great participation there. Any questions about that?
Jonathan, what is a data point?
A data point, so on an online survey, if they answered a question with a click of a mouse, we counted that as a data point. If they were at the workshop and they put a sticker on a map, we counted that as a workshop or as a data point. So it's really our way of just kind of capturing the amount of input that we've collected.
So a survey with 50 questions potentially could count for 50 data points.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. And that, I mean, that's how those data points really start to add up, but every data point is important.
Jonathan, yes. Thank you for your time tonight. Will the 2,100 plus comments be available to the town in some fashion?
Yes, they can be. I mean, with the online survey, it's very easy for us to export those. With the comments that we got at the workshop, we've recorded those in a summary that we've provided, and so all those they're in a few different places, but they've all been captured.
Thank you.
Do the comments fall into categories?
We've started to kind of group them, and we'll talk about key themes and takeaways, and that's kind of our way of starting to group those comments into something that is a little bit easier to digest.
So if you have 2,100 identified comments, there could be, and I know that's not likely, but you could have 1,000 that were the same.
Yeah, you could. It's certainly not likely because those are all open-ended responses. Now, I mean, there's certainly words that are commonly repeated, and we're actually able to take those comments and put them in an online program to figure out which words are most frequently used. And you can also do a sentiment analysis to decide, all right, are the comments mostly positive or are they negative? And so we're able to do that.
So it's what you just described, not what you just described, but what you talked about before your last statement, like a word map.
Yep. We call them like a word cloud, or there's a lot of terms for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Sure. So the other way that we wanted to define success from an engagement is how inclusive, how representative are those touch points that are engaging in the process. From a geographic coverage, so the map that you see there are those folks that took the online survey and on that map identified where they live, and there really is good kind of distribution around the town. We also ask questions in addition to some demographic questions. We ask, how long have you been in Louisville? Because we certainly know that sometimes opinions vary if it's a longtime resident, a multi-generational resident versus someone who's kind of just arrived in Louisville. So we wanted to make sure we understood that mix. And then when you see role in Louisville, we ask, are you a homeowner? Do you work here? Just a variety of questions just to see kind of what the participants' connection is to the town. And so all of that is helpful to kind of put a profile on the participation that we're getting. And so the last thing that we want to use to judge the success of the engagement process is, as I mentioned, how good is the data? How helpful is the input that we're receiving? And so to the point about kind of how we start to make sense of all of these data points and all of these comments, we're talking about kind of the first phase of engagement here. So this is really when we're talking about vision. Tell us what you like. Tell us what are some of the challenges that you see facing the town. And so the input that came from this was the first steering committee meeting, that stakeholder event that I mentioned in May, the online survey, and then the public workshop, that online virtual public workshop that we had in May as well. And we really started to see these same themes about preserving the town's character, walkability, particularly as it relates to around the downtown area and getting people to downtown. There's very specific opinions about what type of businesses folks want in Louisville. There's certainly folks that really seem to want the smaller businesses to let the Clemens and the Winston-Salems of the world to kind of be where you go for your big box retail. But there, for a lot of people's minds, the things that we heard is for Louisville to kind of continue to be a thriving town. There needs to be kind of this network of small businesses, and downtown itself needs to be lively. As you can imagine, since we're doing a joint process where we're not just looking at land use, we're also doing a detailed look at parks and open spaces. We really started to see some common themes as to folks wanting more green spaces, and they talked about the larger parks, but also neighborhoods that include some public green space that's integrated into those particular developments. And so I don't know, the other thing that I'll say on this slide is one of the things that you all as a town do really well is to do that citizen survey quite frequently. And so it really provided us a good starting point to kind of reflect back on and see, okay, is the input that we're collecting, the words that we're hearing as part of this process, is it the same thing that kind of came through in the 2019, the most recent citizen survey? And so there is certainly some continuity in terms of the input that we've received through this process. I'll pause there. I don't know if there's questions or reactions to what you see here.
Jonathan, I have a question.
Sure.
When they define or preserve the town's character and livelier downtown, was there any kind of definition or any kind of, where did that come from? Was it just a choice on one of the questions, or how is that really defined? The word livelier in small town.
Yep. So
really.
Sure. Yep. So livelier downtown, that's probably a word that we, the consultants, have kind of introduced just as we're kind of taken into everything that we heard. So livelier downtown is capturing, they want more people walking around. They want the streets and the sidewalks to be more active and more engaging. They want those small businesses to be thriving in the downtown area, so that it's attracting people to restaurants in the evening, and the place doesn't go dark, if you will, after a certain hour. So that's mostly what it was getting at. Now, it's a really interesting question about town character, because I think it's easy for people to say, we want to preserve what we like about Louisville. And so then you almost have to follow up, what does that mean to you? And as you can imagine, there's a lot of different answers to that. And a lot of those answers depend on what attracted those people to Louisville to begin with, right? So those people that came to Louisville because they wanted to live out in the country and enjoy the open space, to them, that's the character that needs to be preserved. For the folks that may have moved into one of the newer neighborhoods, it's kind of a different answer. So it really, and that's not unique to Louisville, but a lot goes into kind of defining what that character is. Now, how we take that and try to make sure that the plan reflects that is with the future land use map, making sure that we're very clear about what is the intended character for different parts of town. So we're going to go and we're starting to work with Stacy right now on this and very clearly define, when we talk about downtown, what does that mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like? When we talk about residential, how many different ways do we need to describe kind of the residential areas of town? And as we go from the preferred growth strategy, which we'll show you today, to that next level of detail for your future land use map, that's really when we start to kind of define what the character of the town is, dependent upon where you are.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. So we did create a vision based on all of that input, based on kind of the review of existing conditions. This vision was kind of made available to the steering committee, and we tweaked it based on their input. And then we also provided it at the August public workshop to get the public's reaction to this vision. And every time we have a meeting or an event or an activity, we'll make sure that this vision is front and center, as well as the planning themes that we'll talk about on the next slide. And so just, I hate reading slides, but I feel like it would be good to kind of read this so you can hear it. The town of Louisville is defined by its strong sense of community. The town is a place of neighbors, a place of values, and a place to call home. Louisville tomorrow will preserve this distinctive small town character by encouraging balanced growth that enhances opportunities and enriches community connections. And so the vision itself is kind of intentionally broad. It's not necessarily limiting, but it is something that when we get to the very end of this process and we've created the future land use map, we've created the policies that need to be put in place to achieve that future land use vision, we need to be able to come back to this and say, okay, everything that we've got in this plan is moving toward this overarching goal. Any thoughts or questions or reaction to that vision on first read?
I have a question.
Sure.
Typically, so this vision statement that you have here is one that you have developed based on your compilation of information that you received in terms of input from folks who responded. Is that fair?
That's fair, yes, sir.
All right. So typically, and I don't know that I have a better way of arriving at a vision statement other than to say that it really is something that is the responsibility of the town to determine. And I know that you got input, but can you sort of reiterate for me what the size of the response is in terms of numbers of people reacting?
Yep. So the 1,000 touch points, you know, that's kind of where we are with the amount of participation that we've gotten to this point. And those data points, you know, are another kind of way to measure it. You know, this is something that, you know, the surveys, the input that we've collected is not scientific in the nature. There's not a you know, a measure or a measure of error or you know, statistically valid approach to all this. But that said, there are a lot of voices that are coming into this process. The other folks that had a hand in crafting this is the steering committee. And so when that committee was formed, we really wanted it to be representative, so that they were kind of representative of more than just themselves. And so all of that went into the creation of this vision statement.
Okay, so then I guess the question I've got in terms of your 1,000 data points, are they unique in nature, or could they have come from the same individuals, from a smaller group of individuals than 1,000?
Yep. So I mean, the online survey that we had over almost 900 people took that survey. And so that was kind of our broadest reach of engagement. And so I want to make a distinction between the touch points and the data points, because just think of the touch points as people, and the data points as clicks on a mouse or dots on a map. I mean, we call them touch points. There were probably over 900 different people that have weighed in on this process to this point.
All right, thanks.
Yep. And you know, go ahead.
Jonathan, this is Jean Marie. The previous comprehensive plans have had a vision statement. And I'm wondering if you can just connect the dots. I hear what you're saying, and I hear what Dr. Sadler's saying about, you know, this came from the, you call them touch points, or yeah, touch points, as well as the steering committee. How much of what, it looks familiar to me consistently with previous visions and previous comp plans. Can you address how you connected the dots back to previous comp plans for vision?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I don't think that we necessarily had the previous comp plan's vision statement open as we were crafting this one. So I think it would be worth us going back to revisit that, and we'll certainly take that step. That said, we certainly have leaned heavily on the most recent comprehensive plan, particularly as we're looking at the different ways to describe land use.
Thanks.
Sure. Any other thoughts or questions about the vision statement? So we've also created what we're calling planning themes. And so these planning themes are kind of add in an extra layer of detail, if you will, to that vision statement. And so the planning themes are just different categories of things that we're kind of continuing to hear. There's a logical tie back to the planning themes themselves and some of those key takeaways that we talked about previously. And so those 6 topics, placemaking. So that's where we talk about kind of the vibrant downtown and just making sure that, you know, how, regardless of how Louisville grows, that it does so in a way that preserves that sense of place that continues to attract people to the area. The activity hubs, this isn't different. It isn't much different than your current comprehensive plan, where there's kind of these little pulses of activity around town where we want to kind of focus the activity so that it's not dispersed, it's not spread out. And those activity hubs vary in size and scale and types of uses depending upon kind of where they are and where it makes the most sense. We heard loud and clear that there's a concern about the corridors that are connecting the different places of town. And so you'll see that reflected on the maps that are to follow. Mobility, we talk about active transportation. I think that's, you know, the sidewalks, the bike paths, particularly where most people live and near downtown, connecting the different places. Housing portfolio, I know housing is a sensitive topic in a lot of places, and that's sensitive in Louisville as well. But as part of this process, one of those topical framework plans is going to be about housing. And so we're going to try to provide some guidance on kind of how to provide housing in the future, what that should look like, and what it shouldn't. And then the last is open space. Again, we heard quite a bit, particularly kind of as you get away from downtown and kind of the core of the community, about how the open space really is one way that kind of people relate to the town. I'll pause there. I'm sure there might be a question or a reaction or to those 6 topics.
Yes, I had a question, Jonathan.
Okay.
Yes. When it comes to housing portfolio, my experience has been, or for what I have been educated in, the healthiest communities offer a variety of housing for all income levels. In your opinion, what's the best way to achieve that, where a community is happy with it and does improve the health and well-being of everyone?
Sure. I think predictability goes a long way. And so that's where having a really kind of community supported, defined land use plan is helpful, so that there's not surprises, that the land use plan and then that UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance that's to come, really provides that predictability, and it provides a tool so that when staff and when you all as elected officials are having to make hard decisions, you're able to fall back on a plan that really was created by the community, that kind of got the endorsement that it needed. And in that plan, it says, okay, these are the areas that make the most sense for this type of housing, and that you manage the transitions, that you manage the expectations. I think all of that will help, and that's certainly something that we're going to be working toward over the next couple of months.
So in answering that, does that include inclusivity, that it would be a balanced sense of, affordability, et cetera?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we want to look at. And I mean, there have been comments that we've received that, people want to move to Louisville for their first home. And then when their family gets bigger, they want to be able to move up and buy a bigger home or expand their footprint so that they can have a growing family. And then, when the kids go off to college and they want to downsize, they're able to do that without ever leaving Louisville. We talk about that being able to age in place, is the planning term that we talk about. And there's cost implications to that. How much is the housing cost? There's size. All of that will go into it. So the housing framework plan that we're going to put together is going to try to provide that guidance for the town, and provide some policies to allow that to take place organically over time. That's not to say that the difficult decisions aren't, they're still going to be there. It's just hopefully you have, something that you can fall back on.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Jonathan, this is Melissa again. When you talk about activity hubs in the land use map, will there be any direction or any identification of where the core governmental section should be, so to speak, like the town hall? And I mean, obviously there's already one that's in existence, but will there be kind of that layout to some degree as far as an activity hub?
Yep. So we'll actually, you'll start to see kind of what we talk about when we mention activity hubs in a few maps that'll follow. As it is right now, we've really just kind of carried forward the downtown footprint from the the previous plans and kind of the overlay ordinances that are in place. But we're going to try to work with Stacy to figure out kind of the right level of detail to provide for these activity hubs going forward. So as we kind of go through and show some of those maps, if you've got follow-up question or a comment, please follow up with that at that time. Is that all right? I'm not trying to deflect, but I think I might answer it a little bit. Okay.
Jonathan, when it comes to housing, I know I don't hear the two comments I hear generally, and again, it's not scientific or it's not a sampling, but it's if I kind of describe the two areas of comments that I receive about housing. Number one is, I wish there were more step-down housing for me to stay in Louisville when I sell my larger home and still want to be here in a community that I don't have to take care of my yard. Okay, so that's pretty prevalent. The second one is, we don't want any more multifamily, i.e. apartments, because that just brings crime and the wrong people to town. How do we marry the concept of wanting to have diverse housing with the I guess innate resistance that there is to having types of housing for everybody?
Yep, it's a great question and a challenge that communities of all sizes face. We did the plan in Mount Holly, and we heard that same comment almost specifically that you just said, the fact that apartments are bad because they bring crime. And so, I mean, there's a little bit of an education component, but and we'll try to apply that to this process. I think the point that the apartments or multifamily can look and can be shaped and can feel very different depending upon how it addresses the street, how it's designed, where in the town it is. And so when we talk about multifamily, we've all along kind of said it makes sense where in certain places, in certain parts of the town. And so we're trying to kind of set the stage for that part of the conversation. The question about the step down housing, in a lot of respects, that's a question about demographics, right? And I think we can use those demographics to help tell the story as to why that's an important part of the Louisville conversation. And then there's best practices. There's other places that have dealt with these same challenges, and maybe they're 5 years or 10 years down the road ahead of you all, and kind of what have they done? How did they address this situation? And as we get into those framework plans, we'll try to pull in some of those lessons from others.
Again, I didn't mean to suggest that there was an intrinsic level of crime that comes with apartments or multifamily, because I don't subscribe to that at all. So that is I just want to be clear on that one.
Understood. Yeah, and I mean that's a common question or a common comment that we receive when we're having those types of conversations.
Jonathan, as we go back to housing, it's Jane again. Why I brought that question up also, and I thought maybe it's more of a question for builders, but how familiar are you with developments where they have different levels of housing cost all in one unit? Have you experienced that and any success with it?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think it's certainly something that that we have experience in. I'm supported by folks that are on the real estate and the market demand side, and so when the market piece, the economic development piece, I'm tapping into the experts on my team that do that, and so she's helping me kind of weave that into the plan. I hate to kind of continue to point back to kind of the Unified Development Ordinance that's to come. But if as part of the land use plan, we say that, neighborhoods with different size homes with different price points are important for the future of Louisville, we've got to make sure that when a developer comes to town and wants to do just that, that the regulatory framework is in place for them to be successful. And then on the flip side, when the developer kind of comes to town and they're on the fence, the regulations are written in a way that pushes them to the right side of the fence, and starts to include that diversity of housing. We've talked a lot about kind of the connections as well. And I think that it's important to note that, if you have neighborhoods with different size lots, with different types of homes, with different price points, if you can connect those places together, then that'll go a long way. And then you're not completely dependent upon the development community to deliver the product that the town wants, that, over time, those connections are in place.
That makes sense.
Yeah. All right, I'll appreciate the conversation, and it's certainly helpful. Just wanted to kind of go through the process that we've arrived at kind of creating the preferred growth strategy. And so we took that vision, we took those planning themes, we took all of that input, and we said, okay, well, let's continue to narrow it down, and let's start to put together a map. And so we call this the conceptual growth ideas, and there's a map associated with that. And so you're starting to see kind of the consistency of language about small town character, about making things predictable and being intentional about you know, how and where the town grows in the future. You see the livelier downtown phrase again, the connections, and then just making sure that from a land use perspective, from how we move around the town, how do we recreate, that it all goes into kind of giving some guidance to how people experience Louisville. The map here, so there's actually an information sheet, if you will, that's all about kind of this growth strategy. And so if you have time or interest, that's on the comprehensive plan website, where you can take a little bit of a deeper dive into this. But, you know, conceptually, you start to see where some of these centers, some of these activity hubs, you know, start to take shape. You know, the corridors, we started to identify, you know, what are the key corridors around town. Now, there's not a lot of detail on this map. You're going to see in the preferred growth strategy that this is the first take, and we're going to kind of continue to drill down and provide more specificity as we go along. The things that you can kind of, maybe you can see, maybe you can't see if the map is too small. But, you know, there were things like, you know, the people that are kind of on the northern fringe of town, like how and do they feel connected to the core of Louisville? And if they don't, are there ways to make them feel more connected, whether that's through the transportation corridors or just kind of a consistency of design throughout the community? You know, the roundabout that's coming, is there an opportunity to make that more of a gateway feature? We see the same thing, you know, from the south and getting over the highway, making sure that there's kind of a connection. And then a lot is said about kind of how Louisville relates and doesn't relate to Clemens and the growth that is occurring from the east. The Beltway is there, and you'll start to see that kind of be featured in kind of the maps going forward, and just making sure that we're thinking ahead about what occurs around those future interchanges, and what does the corridors look as people get off of the Beltway and try to make their way into Louisville. And so that's why you see some of those highlighted.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Will you differentiate, please, between the corridor or the centers and the areas?
Yeah, and so we'll start to differentiate them very specifically in the next map. But, you know, I mean, we define the areas as, you know, kind of bigger, broader, and the center is a little bit more concise, but you'll see a little bit more detail on the next map.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, so we had the higher level kind of growth map that you see there. Where we went from that point is we created two different future alternatives. And so we really kind of created these to present to the steering committee and to get their input as kind of just an interim step to creating the preferred growth strategy, which is the map that I'll show you next. Those two alternatives, one is current plans. So we took your most recent comprehensive plan. We took, you know, the plan for downtown for the small areas that kind of that provided some guidance. And we said, okay, if Louisville was to kind of stick to its guns on those plans, this is what the future would look like. And then we created an alternative, which is what we call the centers and corridors, which is, I think it folds in many of the elements of the current plans, because the current plans were kind of already going in that direction. But it also starts to be very particular, or more particular, about how we define the different centers, so that there's no confusion about what is an area and what is a center. And then how do we make a distinction between Concord Church Road and Shallerford Road, or some of these other corridors. And so that's what we were doing with that one. Again, it was kind of this interim step to create the map that I'm going to show you. When we presented those two alternatives to the steering committee, they kind of gravitated toward the centers and corridors. And so that was kind of our starting point for creating the preferred growth strategy. And so this is the preferred growth strategy. And I might be able to pull up a bigger map if there's some specific questions. And the information that is on the project website goes into some detail about, what is a downtown core, or what is a gateway center. The future land use map is still to come. And so the future land use map is going to get into the details of density or floor area ratio, or some of those specifics, the land use mixes. So in a neighborhood activity center, are we talking, 50% residential, 50% commercial? All of those details are going to come kind of in the next iteration, which is the future land use map. So well, I'll just leave it up like this, but so you can see like the yellow color, the tan color is the residential single family. The residential multifamily and the commercial and the institutional, for the most part, are just pulled directly from the previous comprehensive plan, with the exception of making sure that the new middle school is represented here as institutional. And then the parks and open space, it's a combination of your parks, but you can see some of the riparian buffers and some of those natural areas kind of coming in terms of the open space. We've got 3 different types of centers. So you've got the downtown core, so that footprint should look somewhat familiar. The gateway centers, so you can see those kind of at the edges of the beltway. That's the greenish color of where those interchanges are going to be, as well as kind of as you're coming into downtown from the west. And then the neighborhood activity centers are these areas where in the future, it might make sense for there to be something other than residential, but you would want to kind of put the expectations in place that those centers aren't necessarily drawing from outside of Louisville, that they're designed in a way that support the neighborhoods and the people that live nearby. And if those folks need something bigger, they come to downtown, or they go to a center in another town or city. As we go to the next level of detail with the future land use map, again, we're going to start to define what each of these centers should be, what the likely mix of uses should be based on kind of market demand and surrounding areas. And so the last piece of the preferred growth strategy are the corridors themselves. And so the gateway corridors are defined as kind of those corridors that are they're either connecting from the gateway centers because that's the edge of the town, or they're leading you into kind of the core of Louisville. So you see Louisville Clemens Road and Shallerford Road and Robin Hood Road coming off of the future Beltway. Those are your gateway corridors. And so as we think about how we put that extra layer of detail on it, what are the design cues? What are the land uses? Maybe we try to get the buildings to start to get closer to the road so that you're kind of made known that you've started to arrive at a place. And so that's what we'll try to do with the gateway corridors. The community corridors are interesting because these are the ones that, as we think about kind of hearing that people on the north side of Louisville feel disconnected from the core, we created these community corridors to figure out a way in the plan and in the upcoming code to, again, make it feel like those corridors are more than just a road, that they're kind of part of the infrastructure that connects people to place.
Jonathan, real quickly, you've used the term a couple of times, the northern part of town feels disconnected from the rest of Louisville. Is that based upon the survey data that you have received from that area, or was that a kind of proposition advanced by the steering committee?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I think we heard that from the steering committee first, and then the question comes, like, when you hear it, do you start to look for it in the survey results? I think, though, even just driving around or kind of landing in town, you can really start to see a little bit of a disconnect. It feels far away from the heart of town. And so that's why, it's starting to find its way into the plan. And I don't know, I mean, from you all, if that's something that you all have heard, or if this is, somewhat new to you all or to the conversation.
I'm really much more interested in what they think at this particular point in time, because we've made a lot of efforts to connect the communities through participation in our boards and committees, visibility in activities, lots of things to bring the two parts of the community together. So I'm really much more interested in seeing if we've had any progress in that area from them.
Okay. Yeah, we'll kind of look back through that to really try to better understand that.
Thank you.
Sure. So the last corridor that we have here is called a heritage corridor, and you can see the kind of the loop from along Yadkinville Road and Conrad Road, Concord Church Road. When we ask people kind of what their favorite areas of Louisville are, Conrad Road, I mean, that's a beautiful stretch of road, and just driving through it in the middle of summer with the tree canopy, and it's something that I think a lot of people spoke up and said, yeah, we like that. And so we kind of put the heritage corridor label on that to just say, yeah, there should be something should be done to try to preserve that and make sure that continues to be a part of Louisville going forward. All right. So we took that preferred growth strategy, we took the vision and those planning themes, we took kind of the existing conditions. All of that was made available at the August workshop that we had right there at the park in downtown. And so we asked people that stopped in, here's the preferred growth strategy. Here are those growth ideas. How well did we hit the mark? Does the preferred growth strategy address what the community said was important? And then we also had all of that community input out there, and we said, is there anything else that we missed or that should have been said that didn't get said? And so we got really good positive feedback on this preferred growth strategy. The needs and priorities as they were expressed through the community input, whether it was from the citizen survey in 2019 or the activities that we did as part of this process. They really thought that the map and these ideas were reflective of that. And we kind of got the affirmation that we needed to take the next step and actually put the details to the different land uses and create that future land use map. Just anecdotally, we asked them, okay, here are those 6 planning themes. Which ones resonate with you all the most? The notion of the activity hubs and the open space were the ones that kind of rose to the top. We were very clear when we asked that question that we're like, look, we know they're all important. So we're just asking you which ones are most important. And, those were the ones that kind of came up. And then we do have kind of this next step of actually creating the future land use map and then wrapping that future land use map with, things with specific policies and maps for housing and economic development and transportation. And so we started to say, okay, if these topical plans are the next step, give us some guidance on that. And so, we start to again see a consistency of comments in terms of the small businesses, that feel of Louisville, the walkability in downtown and within neighborhoods. And then because this meeting also included quite a bit of information on the parks plan, there were quite a bit of comments on open space and kind of the need to connect different places around Louisville with greenways and multi-use paths. All right, just a couple more slides. You all are being great and patient. So I wanted to end on some next steps. So you've heard me mention the framework plans. We're creating this month, we're creating the future land use map. The framework plans I mentioned, land use is your future land use map and some policies associated with that. We've got economic development, housing, transportation, community facilities. The park plan, you're gonna learn more about that over the next 6 to 8 weeks. But we're very fortunate that there's been so much emphasis on that piece that we're able to take the key recommendations and fold it into the comprehensive plan. And then we will have a resiliency and a sustainability element to this overall comprehensive plan. I want to pause there. I'll end with kind of giving you an update on kind of the next steps for engagement. But I wanted to pause and ask if there are any questions or anything that you want to make sure that we take into consideration as we start to create these framework plans. Anything in particular?
Well, I've got a question about one of your bullet points or one of your line items here.
Okay.
The plan for infrastructure and facilities that aligns with desired community growth. So when you talk about infrastructure, are you talking about things like potential sewer, or what are you thinking about?
Yeah, that's really it. I mean, the transportation infrastructure is going to be covered in that transportation and mobility. So we're thinking about water and sewer. We know that some of those decisions are outside of the town's control, and some of them are squarely within your control. But it's access to broadband, and if we're saying this is a place where you should invest and create jobs and retail, you need to make sure that all of the infrastructure, communication or utilities are in place to make that happen. The other thing that I think needs to be a part of the community facilities is kind of an overlap a little bit with some of the others, but from a school or a library or some of these kind of community services, making sure that the framework is in place for those to be addressed in the future also would probably fall under that community facilities category.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So and maybe it's been done and I don't recall, but has there been a inventory of all the I'll just call it buildable or developable land in Louisville, so that we have a sense of what what the maximum build out might be over time.
Yeah, so we didn't, as part of this process, we didn't calculate a number for that, but we did do, as part of our kind of community characteristics report, there's some land suitability and development status. You know, we tried to take the conversation about development status and say, okay, you know, here are your undeveloped areas. Here are the areas that are developed and spoken for. And then there's this area that is kind of in the middle that is either underdeveloped, where you've got, you know, an improvement value on the land that is less than the value of the land itself. And you know, when you start to identify those locations, okay, those are ripe for redevelopment. They're kind of just waiting for that opportunity to come. And so we kind of took that approach, as opposed to saying, okay, if we kind of do the analysis and you know, calculate the land suitability and did a suitability factor to the land, you know, and we assumed a certain size of parcel, or you know, this is how many households could be built in Louisville. We didn't kind of go into that detail, but we did try to understand where are the areas most ripe for development, and then make sure that the land use plan and the UDO to come addresses whether or not you want that kind of growth in those locations.
Jonathan, not to do it this evening. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jane.
Okay, quick question. When it comes to growth, have you determined where growth as far as town limits expanding may or may not occur?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's not something that that we've really kind of factored in. Like we're not necessarily assuming kind of an expansion of the town boundary. You know, I know Stacy might have some thoughts, and maybe that becomes part of the conversation at some point in the future. But for the most part, the footprint that you see on the preferred growth strategy, we're kind of looking within those areas.
Jonathan, I not for this evening again, but I'd really enjoy some conversation when we come back about how to deal with the preferences for greenways and open space. Obviously, those are pieces of property that are owned by people who have the right to develop them, for the most part, how they wish to develop them. So not this evening, but maybe some strategies of how other communities have gone about trying to do that kind of those kind of activities.
Yep, we'll certainly cover that. And you know, some of that to a degree is covered in the park plan, particularly as it relates to the greenways themselves.
Great. Anything else for Jonathan this evening?
I don't want to get ahead of your presentation. Okay, I think this might be.
Yep. So I did want to end with this slide. I mean, we're not done engaging the community. So we've got 2 more steering committee meetings. We've got another public workshop we've penciled in December 14th. We've also said, you know, if we wanted to do an online survey in lieu of that public meeting, we've kind of got an either or there. Then at the beginning of 2022, that's when the plan is in place, and we'll start to go through the channels with the planning board and get back in front of you all for the adoption process. That's my last slide.
Ms. Walker, refresh my memory real quick. When we did our last survey that was mailed, do you recall how many responses we had? Wasn't it close to 5,000? Or no, that couldn't be right.
No, it was more like 1,500, whatever it was. Yeah, it was 1/3 of the residents' households. So it was about
that would put us about 1,500. And yes. I think, Jonathan, that's I don't want us to give up on the strategy of trying to get more individuals, not so much just touch points, but more actual individuals participating in the process.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And it's an all hands on deck kind of approach to kind of get that level of engagement. And so if you all on council, and we'll put the same out to the Park and Recreation Board and the Planning Board, if we can do an all hands on deck, I don't see any reason why the 900 people that took the first survey, we can't try to double that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and in some respects, it'll be a little bit easier to get people to engage, because now something's on paper, and sometimes that's all that it takes to prompt somebody to express their opinion.
Okay, thank you. Council members, anything else this evening?
Yep, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Jonathan, thank you very much. Very, very helpful, very comprehensive. My questions are really around one thematic, and that has to do with this next step with engagement. So here's my setup. So Planning Board is chartered or responsible for putting together and approving and sending up to for approval a comprehensive plan. So it looks to me like the Planning Board is going to see it January 26th, but then it's going to go to council within just a couple of weeks. So I'm wondering about that time frame. And then I'm also wondering about two other components. So I understand Parks and Rec has had their own sort of process, but in terms of making sure that we're not just staying siloed around one particular area, there's cross pollination, if you will, because that's something we hear from our boards and committees greatly, is to make sure that they can compare notes with one another. So I'm wondering about how that's been addressed heretofore, and or how that's going to be addressed going forward before something comes back to council. And then finally, I'll pause there.
Yep. So I'll say the Planning Board and some of these other groups are represented on the steering committee, and so that's one way that we have kind of an avenue into them. I'm going to present to the Planning Board next month, and so they're seeing the final plan or the draft plan early next year, but they're going to get kind of this presentation plus the future land use map in about 4 weeks. And when we put that January 26th date on the calendar, that's when we're in front of the board for their adoption. That means they're getting the plan in advance of that. And with the park, I mean, they needed a little bit more time, so we gave them that time, and we'll certainly kind of be flexible going forward. Stacey, I don't know if you've got any other thoughts or want to add to that.
Well, I would say too, I'm going to be honest, I have been a little bit disappointed in the any feedback that we have gotten from boards and committees. There has been key players that have attended public workshops, that have engaged in the process, have shown up to the steering committee meetings, and there has been a lot that have not. So I would just think too, if we can continue to try to nail that in. I asked some of them to come and watch Jonathan's presentation tonight, and there are none here that I asked to come and watch that presentation. So I think it kind of goes both ways. We have been tugging and pulling to try to get a lot of participation, and I don't know that we have been 100% successful in that, simply because people just aren't engaging like I expected them to do so. So that's just my thought on that.
And it's important because, I mean, we're going to design the action plan around, assigning some responsibilities to those boards and committees. And so you think they would want a hand in kind of choosing their future.
I mean, getting specific email invitations to these public workshops that we've had and stuff like that. And I just haven't felt, I expected to have more participation from board and committee members than we have had. So I hope that the next realm or opportunity they have, maybe they'll be able to attend that one. So.
Very good. Thanks, Stace. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Mayor, this is Melissa.
Yes,
I have a question. Jonathan, you referenced earlier about the neighborhood activity centers at Dole Road and Yadkinville Road area. When you guys come back, are you going to be specific with what the request or preferences were from those individuals in those neighborhoods? and what those activity centers would look like?
Yeah, we'll provide a little bit of guidance for kind of the specifics of those locations and kind of what the vision would be and what types of uses would likely be at those crossroads. For the most part, those neighborhood activity centers are at crossroads, and we tried to place them on the map in a way that didn't put them in a neighborhood. And that was really important, down at Dull Road, because there are some neighborhoods, right there at that intersection.
Sure. And are there plans to continually engage those neighborhoods that are in those vicinities, whether it be surveys or postcards or whatever the case may be, to really pull out what they're looking for, especially on that Yadkinville Road side?
Yeah, I think we would love to pull them into the conversation, and if that's if that means we tap into the HOA leadership or kind of whoever the advocate is for those neighborhoods, we'll try to do that.
Thank you.
Anything else, council members? Jonathan, thank you again. We look forward to hearing from you next time.
Thank you very much for the time.
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan.
You got it.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the first public forum this evening. Stace, if you'll pop up how they can participate. If you are watching on TV6 or playing with us on Zoom, here is the information to call in. Telephone number 646-558-8656, and there's a passcode there. You may want to jot that down because we'll also have an opportunity for a public forum toward the end of the meeting. If you'd like to join us on Zoom, just go to LouisvilleNC.net and click down to look just down on the events, and you will see tonight's meeting from 6:30 to 9:30. Click on that, and there'll be a link to our Zoom. And again, you may want to make reference to that should you want to participate in the second public forum. Stace, do we have anybody on board, or Hank?
Okay, we have people in the attendees, but no one is raising their hand. Please feel free to do so if you'd like to make comment during this public comment section.
I think those are for the public hearing. They're the applicants for the public hearing, Hank.
Okay, every one of them?
Steve and Ron are.
Okay. All right, I guess no one wants to speak now.
Very good. Again, take note of these numbers, and we'll have an opportunity again in just a little bit for our second public forum. Stace, you just made a good segue into the public hearing tonight.
Yep. Hank, if you'd like to bring over Steve, Ron is on twice, so we might just want to guess at one of those.
Okay.
He looks like he's signed in twice. But I'm going to share my screen.
So you want me to bring in one of the Rons as well?
Yes, please.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, can everyone see the?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I don't know why. We'll do it this way. With two screens, it sometimes it doesn't let me share it right, but okay. So tonight before us is the public hearing for Longwood Village. This is case L99. For the record, the properties included are PIN numbers 5885-708928. It's just a portion of that property, and it is the entire parcel of 5885-81-0388. So tonight the request is for a site plan amendment. Just for your reference, a site plan amendment is a process that we have to go through whenever a property has been rezoned and a site plan was approved along with that rezoning. If it's within the 2 years or the sunset period that the plan has to change, they have to request what's called a site plan amendment, and site plan amendments have to be approved using the same process that the original rezoning went through. And with rezonings, that is a public hearing process, so that's why this has to go through that same process as well. So the request is due to environmental factors that was found on the property, and I'll get to the changes in just a minute, but the original rezoning was to RS9S, that's residential single family for 9,000 square foot lots, approved on June 15th, 2020 for a 38 lot conventional subdivision. The original approval also included a waiver that was granted by the council for the interconnectivity requirements in the Unified Development Ordinance. So that request or that waiver would still be upheld. That part is not changing. So you can see before you on the map the portion of the property, and then that other entire parcel. This is the property of request that's hashed out in yellow. It's located on Louisville Clemens Road, and back here on Leon's Way, this is Kaplan's, just to orient you of where this property is located. This is a different map to better show you the zoning in the area. This is RS9. This over here in blue is also RS9, but next door is RS20, and then highway business is back here where Kaplan's and everything is. Again, the property is circled in yellow. So this was the original approval that took place in 2020. Again, it was a 38 lot subdivision. So the changes proposed are three major things. The reduction of the number of lots. It was originally approved as 38 lots. Due to those environmental concerns, they are losing some lots. So now the request is only for 34 lots. The street design is changing to 2 cul-de-sacs instead of the connection, again, because of the floodplain and the environmental concerns to the back of the property. And then they'll be utilizing 2 stormwater control measures instead of just 1 that was originally proposed to handle the stormwater from the property. So here you can see the newly submitted or newly proposed site plan. The access off of Louisville Clemens Road is not changing. It is staying the same from the original approval. The required landscaping and sidewalk is shown on the site plan along Louisville Clemens Road. To the back of the property is where the changes are taking place. You can see back here, these dash lines and everything, that's floodplain. So that's why they're losing some lots and losing some area. These dark spots are the stormwater control measures that will be installed to handle the stormwater. It still meets the requirements of the conventional subdivision with the street tree requirements in place along the streets, the sidewalks along the streets, and everything like that. So the planning board heard the site plan amendment case at their regular meeting on August 11th, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval to the council for the site plan amendment changes. So I can answer any questions that anyone has.
Council members?
Yeah, I got a couple for you, Stacy. You mentioned the sidewalk on Louisville Clemens Road.
Right.
Still showing on the new deal.
Mm-hmm.
Since it was first approved or during the first approval, did we not grant the developer some type of an exception, or because Louisville Clemens Road is potentially going to be widened to 3-lane curb and gutter at some point in time?
Yeah, I think we looked at that, and Steve and Ron I couldn't really find in the original ordinance where that was addressed and what was originally approved.
I just remember some discussion about that.
Right, you know? we did discuss that. The way it's mentioned in the ordinance is that if it's not provided, that the planning board could issue them a waiver, and I believe they did do that. So if they don't want to build the sidewalk, they can submit payment in lieu of. And
yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the waiver was granted, I believe, by the planning board. They're able to do that in our ordinance, but then it's shown on the plan because they can, the developer at the time can either build the sidewalk or they can submit payment in lieu of the sidewalk and not have to build it. But you're correct, Mr. Franklin, the reason they were granted that waiver is because of the future plan for the sidewalk on Louisville Clemens Road.
And then one other question, this new plan, if you could pull that back up right quick, I was hoping to maybe catch it while we were there.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that. The emergency access that in lieu of connectivity, is that still there?
Yes, that's that dark first.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
This right here is an existing driveway that will go away. They're just showing an existing condition on the plan. But back here between lot I believe that's 7 and 8, is where the fire access lane will be. That is the same as what was originally approved. That's required by fire code.
Right. And from what I remember, that is going to be gated and the fire department will have a key to that.
I believe so. You're correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. You've answered my questions.
Thank you.
Stacy, leave that map up just for a second. Council members, any other questions for Stacy?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, Stacy, there's no adverse environmental impact from as a result of these changes. Is that correct?
No, it's actually better because there will not be. It's all turned to common area in the lot area that they're losing. So it's no longer buildable area. So you know, the new residents would not be building in those areas because it is floodplain. So it's actually a betterment for the environment with this new plan than the old plan was.
And that access that Councilman Franklin was just talking about, the fire department, that's gravel. Is that what I remember being?
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Stacy, we had a lengthy discussion with the DOT on the widening of Louisville Clemens Road here a week or so ago. One of the concerns that we raised was at Warren Park and the new community center, we have been required, obviously because we're subject to our own buffer requirements and landscape requirements, to do plantings. Again, the concern that I need to express here is the applicant aware that potentially that road will be widened and potentially those, whatever landscaping they do may be impacted by that. Is there any thought to any consideration to trying to place this buffer back far enough so we have a better chance that it's not impacted?
Yeah, they actually are. We have had lengthy discussions with NCDOT about this project, and NCDOT is requiring a slip lane. So they're actually going to be widening this portion of Louisville Clemens a little bit already just for this project. So I would hope that in the little bit of widening that they're going to have to do for this project at this point in time will just help the NCDOT project down the road.
Great.
So, but yes, they are aware of those things that would be coming in the future.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Council members, any other questions?
I will mention that if you have any technical type questions or anything like that you'd like to ask the applicant, they are here as well.
Very good. Council members, any questions for Stacy or the applicants? All righty. This is a public hearing for UDO L099 Longwood Village Site Plan Amendment. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this petition? Anybody wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to? So Steve and Ron, since you're the only two kids in the room, you have an opportunity to speak or not to speak. You can raise your hands and we can entertain that as this is a public hearing.
Mayor Horn, I'm here to answer questions. I don't know that we can add much to what Stacy had to say, but we're here certainly if you have questions.
Very good, thank you. Hank, do we have anybody else indicating they wish to speak?
Muted, Hank.
But no, sir, there is nobody that indicates that they want to speak.
Very good. With that, we'll close the public hearing. Council members, this is our opportunity to discuss and consideration of the ordinance. If there's no discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Dr. Sadler makes the motion and Mr. Smitherman makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman.
Aye. Clarify, motion is to approve the site plan amendment.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Ms. Welch. Can you do that in sign language so we can?
I apologize. Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
I just feel like I'm missing somebody.
Me.
Dr. Sadler, all the way in the bottom part of the screen.
Aye.
Very good. The mayor is aye. That is unanimous and it passes.
Thank you,
Mr.
Council.
Causey, Mr. Davis, we appreciate your investment in the town and we wish you the best of luck with this project. We know it's going to be a great addition. So thank you and move forward. All righty. We're down to new business. Ryan, you've set away the ducks and we're now with air handlers.
Last week we spoke about after routine maintenance, we found that the air handlers and the coils at Town Hall needed a cleaning. So I went out and received several quotes and came back. So ordinance 2021058, amending budget ordinance 2021001 in an amount of $5,700 to contract for the cleaning of air handlers and the evaporator coils at Town Hall.
Very good. Council members, we were briefed on this last week. Is there any questions for Ryan? If not, we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Smitherman makes a motion.
Second.
Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any additional discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin? Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
The mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Pam, you have a budget ordinance for us, please.
I think Hank is actually going to take that one.
Yeah,
okay.
We have
Hank.
Budget ordinance 2021059. This is amending budget ordinance 2021001 in an amount of $4,220 to increase the budget for salaries, payroll taxes, and retirement in the administration department. This is a budget ordinance that's required in order to help Ms. Walker finalize and finish out her time with the town of Louisville as she goes into retirement. So these are to be able to satisfy some expenses that the town will incur as she retires.
Is her going away party included in these expenses?
No, that is not included in this.
That's a separate expense line item. Okay, very good.
So
Council members, any questions for the manager?
So if we don't approve it, she can't retire.
It looks like to me. Very good. Any questions for the manager? If not, we'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion.
Franklin makes the motion.
Second.
I believe Ms. Welch may have made the second. Any additional discussion?
Who made the motion?
Mr. Franklin made the motion and Ms. Welch made the second. Very good. Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Ms. Walker, you have a calendar change for us, please.
Yes, the ECSC group has decided that 6:30 is a better time for them to meet. So because other people had conflicts in trying to get there on time. So they would just like to have the calendar approved, if you don't mind, please.
Very good. And would you familiarize all of us with what ECSC stands for?
That's Environmental Conservation and Sustainability Committee.
Very good.
I still call them recycling because it's shorter.
Well, we have some big work for them to do coming up. So thank you. Any questions for Ms. Walker? We'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion.
Ms. Hunt makes the motion.
Second.
Ms. Foster makes the second. Any discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Hank, we're to administrative reports, please.
Okay, first we have the upcoming events at Shalford Square and Town Holidays. This coming Friday, we'll have movie night. We had a movie that was planned for last Friday and it was, I guess, postponed due to weather. And so we're going to try again on that one. It's not coming to me. Pam, which one is that?
It's Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus. Very timely for Halloween coming up here. And then moving on forward, we have a concert and Shalloween in the park on the 23rd. That's the Saturday. Shalloween, of course, is our annual event for children, and the concert is for children as well. Pam, the name of that group?
Big Bang Boom.
Big Bang Boom. That's going to be very fun. So that's it. I'll stop there. And of course, we have, well, I'll say one more thing because it's in there. On the 30th of October, we were going to have a special recycling event. And this is at David McKee at the Square. The Recycling Committee, better known by that long title that I can't remember either at this point, will be holding an event that morning at 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They will be collecting specialized events that are not readily recyclable, especially through common curbside programs. So we wish them luck as well. They usually have a big turnout through the scouting organization.
Hey, does that include things like paint and oil and?
No, they don't do that.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. Where is this information detailed and specific? Because
we have this on the website.
Specifically about what is received or what can be received, what can't be received.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'll double check. I didn't see it in the specificity I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
I think closer to time too, Jean Marie, they also would post it on Facebook, like with a little bit more specific information for people probably.
Just, I am a big recycler and I know how much it takes in terms of preparation to scour my home to pull that material. So I'm going to be working on that over the next couple of weeks. So it would be important for me and people like me to have that as soon as possible. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Ms. Welch, I believe you had your hand up.
Yes, Manager Hank,
yes.
Please. For the Christmas parade, is the time still 3 o'clock?
I'm not aware that anything has changed for the Christmas parade.
That's normally when it is, correct, though?
Jane,
yes, I haven't heard any change to any times.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Jane, the Civic Club will be giving that information in the November meeting. We have not yet received anything on the floats or anything else, but we will be putting that out in November for you.
But you don't know the time.
It's always at 3 o'clock. Second Sunday at 3 o'clock, always.
Thank you.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, getting back to the recycling law, Hank, just ask this question in general. Where would a person get rid of old push mowers, backpack blowers, weed eaters, things of that nature? And I know that it can't go out in our bulky item because they are products that once contained gas and oil and things of that nature. And I know that they don't take them at the 3RC Center. So how does a person get rid of something like that? And
that's
you know,
a good
if
question.
you don't off the top of your head, please research.
Mr. Smitherton's got his hand up. That would indicate he.
All right, that sounds good.
The best place you can, there's two things. Habitat will take it, and Goodwill will take it because they will revamp it if they can and resell it. And the Winston-Salem Rescue Mission will come pick it up.
Okay, well, we ought to make note and publicize that, I guess, as we go forward, because I've got some I was going to put out, and I thought, well, I'll put them out to the side so they won't reject my pile, and you know, the overall pile, and maybe scrappers would come by and get them. So I didn't know what to do with some items like that because they were engines at one time.
Hank, I'd like to go back and just quickly revisit. Ms. Foster was raising a very good point. There's a lot of work that goes into putting one of these on. Certainly it's on our webpage right now, but unless you know to go to our webpage, you don't know that it's there. We're talking about putting it potentially on TV6 in advance so that people know. We also, I hope, are putting it on Facebook. What I'd like to suggest too for
TV6, Mayor, is very challenging because there is so much detail involved with it, and the resolution for 6. The best thing you can do for 6 is probably put the web address and at least let people know of the event and the date, but there are so many things that they were able to take that it's just hard to display that on 6.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm thinking make sure that they know it's available and refer them to the webpage that they can get the specifics. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I want to dovetail on what you're saying. Thank you very much. The part of the problem for me is you have to know where to look for it on the webpage. Just saying, oh, you can find it on the webpage. So you can go to the calendar and you go to the special events and you don't have the link there that takes you to departments, public works, solid waste and recycling special events. So it's not user, with all due respect to the work that's being done. I love that it's there. Could you all take another hard look at making sure that it's easily accessible to where to drill down to find the information? Thanks.
Okay.
Hank, we can put on one of our sliders, can't we?
What's a slider?
It's the billboards that we have on the landing page.
Oh, yes, we can do that.
It's already there, Mayor.
Is it? Outstanding.
I'm looking. The reason I know is because I just looked at it.
Outstanding. Dr. Sadler.
So the e-cycling event that was held at the square was terminated earlier than advertised, was it not?
No, I checked with Ryan. It went on to the time it was supposed to. The trucks were there, and I understand that Dr. Sadler, for your son, there was no one present, but the trucks were there. We're not exactly sure where the employees were at that point.
Okay. So what's a person? I don't know if he was the only one that showed up.
We talked a little bit about that. I would suggest that if the trucks are still there and it's during the time of the event, to go ahead and leave the item sitting there near the truck, assuming that they would come back, see it when they came to get the trucks in the vehicle, wherever they were. If they were at taking a break, they would be able to load the equipment at that point.
Yeah, and what I would suggest then, if that's, you'll have to have some signage that says that, because I don't think the average person would just do that. So anyway, just for the future.
It's our experience that people are their first tendency is to leave things sitting around. Regardless, I think your son is he was certainly the exception, and oftentimes that's the best thing to do and recommended is just not to dump something. But in this case, we would recommend that people just leave it if the vehicle's still there.
And Hank, can we also do our Louisville Connect call on this?
On what?
Can we also do our Louisville Connect call?
Are we talking about e-cycling?
Yes.
Okay, no. The e-cycling event's already done.
Okay. No, Hank, excuse me. I just got a message from Kay Smitherman, and she is. I know what you're asking for, Mike. She wants to have it on Blackboard Connect.
Yes, we've already talked about that, and she's got me the message. We were just discussing e-cycling, Mayor, so you threw me off a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Yeah, we do bounce around a little bit. So, but yeah, that's where I want to be. Very good. So we're going to promote it well, and we should have great turnout. And it's a tremendous service by the Environment, Conservation, and Sustainability Committee.
Yes, we're going to have to figure out how to commit that one to memory.
Yeah. Hank, you have continued with the manager report.
Yes. Let's see. Just want to remind everybody, for the Gateway project, we will have the advertisement this Sunday starting, and then with the bid openings coming a month and a day later on November 18th. That bid opening will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll do it here at Town Hall. So this is a re-advertisement, as we discussed last week. Since it's a re-advertisement, we're hoping for multiple, but if we have less than 3 interested bids in this, we can accept any one of them as long as we're happy and satisfied with the result. All right, moving forward, we're going to have a public drop-in for the new community center. Let's see my dates here. I think we're running on November, what date is that first one? Is it Tuesday the 16th, Mayor?
Tuesday the 16th, yes.
Yes, and then we will do that in the evening, starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, running to around 7 o'clock in the evening. And that will end up going through Saturday. And,
actually, no, it'll go through Friday.
Friday.
So it's going to be 4 to 7, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then it'll be Saturday morning from 9 to noon.
All right.
What are the COVID protocols, if any?
We're recommending and requesting masks. We will have sanitation stations set up at the entranceway for those who don't have masks, as well as hand sanitizer and all of those types of things. And Jean Marie, one of the reasons why we decided to do this, stretch it out over a week, is trying to think about having as many people potentially who would want to come and see this at one time really could be problematic. So this way it gives us basically 5 days for folks to come in and visit, and we should be able to not have a big crowd at any one time.
Thank you for that. That's great thinking.
Sure. Mr. Franklin.
Yes, and the actual dedication and all is the previous Sunday. Is that correct?
That would be correct. The ribbon cutting,
yeah,
yes, is November. I'm sorry, November 14th at 2 o'clock.
Right.
And again, I will apologize to many of our residents. The ribbon cutting will be primarily for our boards and committees and those individuals who've been involved in the construction and history of the community center. We would love to have 3,000 people at our ribbon cutting, but again, that's trying to avoid the issues with COVID and the social distancing and whatever. And again, that's why we wanted to come back and do the ribbon cutting. It would be a relatively short ceremony. And then we have the extended period of time for all of our other residents that we can actually spend some time with and talk about the community center and how proud we are of it.
Okay. And I do have one more thing to add before I'm finished. I would like to make an announcement. It's my pleasure to be able to announce that I've selected a new town clerk for the town of Louisville. We've got Miss Dora Moore, who has been the town clerk of the town of Rural Hall for 11 years. Miss Moore is, Joyce helped me out with these acronyms for it. I think she's got Master Municipal Clerk in North Carolina, Certified Municipal Clerk. Mm-hmm. She has been the NC, or the North Carolina Association of Municipal Clerks President from 2016 to 2017. She, like our town clerk, Joyce Walker, was selected as Clerk of the Year in 2014. She lives in King with her husband, Scott. They have a daughter, Sierra, who is a senior at West Oaks High School, and a son, Seth, who is a junior at UNC Chapel Hill. And let's see if there's anything she had left on it. And she said that she is the North Carolina Association of Municipal Clerks Program and Education Chair for 2 years, from 2014 to 2016, and the current chair of the North Carolina Association of Municipal Clerks for Organizational Assessments Committee. Ms. Moore will join us on her first day of November 1st of this year. And I'm happy. She's a good candidate, and I'm glad she's able to join us.
Very good. And while nobody can replace Ms. Walker, we fished in a very deep hole and pulled up, I think, a pretty good size fish to try to get us through this traumatic period of your separation.
Yeah. Ms. Moore has been a town employee of Rural Hall since 1993. Yeah. So she's been around.
Very good.
Okay.
Hank, anything else for us this evening?
No, sir. That's it.
Okay. Bo, you'd like to bring us up to date on our right-of-way settlement, please?
Yes, we have, as you know, as you're aware, we talked about this last week in closed session. We have an eminent domain proceeding going involving Mr. York. Pleased to report that we have reached a resolution of that case within the parameters that were outlined for me. And the case is settling for a total condemnation amount of $50,000 even. Don't want to talk too much about how all that was reached. We haven't fully buttoned it down yet. One part of that would be asking this council to formally approve that settlement tonight.
Very good. We have a request from the attorney. Is there a motion, please?
Move approval.
Dr. Stadler makes the motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the second. Any further discussions? Mr. Smithman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Very good. The mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, Bo, for your work on this.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Ms. Walker, you have an announcement about local elections. Is there an election coming up?
Yes, there is an election. Our local election is going to be on Tuesday, November the 2nd. I'm not sure, I don't have any other details other than the date. If anybody is interested in early voting is always downtown at the county building. If you are a new resident, however, since I did receive a couple of calls today, if you are a new resident, you need to check with the Board of Elections for your polling place, because the town does not have any of that information.
This would be a good question. If you'd like to, if you're a new resident, you can go to Forsyth County Board of Elections. I am not sure if they will have same-day registration or not, but you can ask them that question. Our 3 polling places will be Shiloh Lutheran, Louisville Elementary, and Unity Moravian. Early voting will start, I believe, tomorrow. And the only place for early voting will be downtown at the Government Center. And you'll have to go down there if you want to vote in Louisville municipal elections, but you can just wait here and vote on November 2nd. Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, also Southwest Elementary does have some Louisville residents, always votes there.
About 20.
I'm trying to remember, Mr. Franklin, if they have done some things to consolidate.
Yeah, but Clemens has a precinct there, and so it's always open. That's one that is always forgotten about, but there will be people at Southwest. Obviously, the others that you described, from Pofftown Christian being consolidated, from Buying a School being consolidated, and all those, Kimberly Stuck sent out a notice that we all got, but Southwest Elementary is still a site in Louisville.
Yeah, I can't confirm that, but thank you, Mr. Franklin. Mr. Smitherman.
I was just going to make a point to what Mr. Franklin said about the email we got from Kimberly downtown that was itemizing where the polling places were.
Very good. Thank you. Good luck to all of you. I know you're facing stiff competition, and hopefully each one of you will emerge victorious, and we'll all hold our breath. We'll announce an election watch party coming up here shortly, where we all can gather and celebrate and congratulate each other, and then go out and collect yard signs.
At your house?
I'm not sure about that, but we'll figure it out, Dr. Sadler. Hank, would you like to, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a briefing meeting. As you know, it's the first Thursday of every month, and sometimes we find it necessary to take action. Hank, will you summarize our actions that we took at this last briefing?
Sure. We had 2 events that we took care of at the briefing. We had Resolution 2021065, approving the interlocal agreement with Forsyth County for Historic Resource Commission's next phase of work for the Forsyth County Architectural Survey project. And then lastly, we considered and approved Ordinance 2021056, declaring a road closure for a Christmas parade to be held on Sunday, December 12th, 2021.
Very good. Council members, any questions of the mayor? Not the mayor, of the manager. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. We are now at the point for the second public forum. If you've stayed with us at this point, you can give us a call at the number. Hopefully you've jotted down the number earlier, 6869-617. And for those of you who are dyslexic, 869-1622-9267. That's our webinar, and that's the webinar. For those of you who can read, oh boy, our telephone number is there on the screen, as well as LouisvilleNC.net. You can go and click on tonight's meeting and get a link to a Zoom link to the meeting. Hank, do we have anybody who's managed to decipher those instructions?
Let me see. No, we don't. No one wishes to speak.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Stacy. All righty, Jane, would you like to explain or share your thoughts with us why many of us are carrying or dressed in pink?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Of course, it's October, and I think most individuals are familiar with breast cancer awareness. So thank you, Council, for wearing pink. Just want to encourage all women to start those mammograms at age 35 now. And those who love your wives and your sisters and your daughters, do encourage them to get that baseline mammogram, because early detection, that's the real key to curing. and the cure rates are high now, and we've come a long way. So thank you for your attention to that. And Mayor, the next time when you can't find a pink shirt, just throw a red shirt in there with that white one and put it on hot, and you'll end up with a pink one.
I'll do that. Thank you, Jane, for that reminder. That's really, really important. Council members, any other comments this evening?
I have a quick follow-up.
Ms. Foster.
So when you said, Mayor, sliders earlier.
Yeah.
Do you mean at the top of the website? Or?
Yeah, the things that go across. You know, not the hamburgers, not the tiny hamburgers. It's between the buns, the little buns. Yeah.
So I did not see, Stacy, that the slider for the Louisville Tomorrow, it says page not found when you click on that. Am I doing something wrong? You don't have to.
Jeannie is aware, and she's working with Tim, the website guy, to get that fixed. But if you do go through the planning department,
I know.
You can still get there.
Yeah. I know. Okay. Yeah. And then the slider that you said you have a slider up there for the recycling or the event. Is that what I heard you say earlier when we were talking?
Yeah. The fourth one. No. Okay. You're talking about something different. You're talking about like those little headers up top, like the big pictures on that scroll that change.
Yeah.
The fourth one is for the special recycling event for October 30th.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Just hold on. Just when you open the web page,
yeah, I'm looking
Jeannie's got it to where if you just wait and watch,
yeah,
the fourth one that scrolls through will be one for the recycling event.
Okay. Click on it and it will give you the information.
Yeah, it's got a little learn more icon that you can click on, and it'll tell you what you can bring.
Okay, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. All right. When we adjourn the meeting, make sure you watch that very intently, Jean Marie.
I'm watching. I'm looking at it.
It's just right on the homepage.
Real quick, I meant to mention this earlier. This right here, this is our town app for C-Click Fix. If you go to the website to report a problem, this is what we've got, and it's been implemented for about 3 weeks now. If you're a registered user, you can submit an issue either through the app or the website itself. And then if you do that, then you will submit your information for contact, mainly your email address. And then you'll be able to see the progress of your issue that has been submitted through the Report a Problem website or the C-Click Fix from the time you submit the issue to the time it is resolved and completed. And at each step of the way, if you're a registered user, you'll get that feedback, and it's automatic. You won't have to check back in with the town. So if you're not already signed up for C-Click Fix, it's available on Android and Apple Store. And then you can go to the town's website, and it's soon coming to the town's Facebook page. There's an availability there too. That's it.
Is that an invitation for council members too?
That is. We're up to about 40 subscribers at this point.
Excellent.
It's really fabulous. I used it to report a pothole, and I was immensely impressed by what the process was and how the follow-up was. Hank, is there anything we can use other than closed? Because I don't know if people know what closed means. I mean, we've closed the issue, and I understand that, but is there another word we can use for our residents?
Well, it says closed, but what we'll end up doing is we'll provide you a comment. And the comment is generally more verbose than just the word closed. You might get a message that says this issue has been dealt with and closed, that type of thing.
What's the name of the app again?
C-Click Fix. So if you download the app, it's I guess it knows this by your phone location. It will open up the nearest C-Click Fix website. So if you happen to be in Winston-Salem, you may end up getting theirs if you open it up. But if you're in the town of Louisville, you'll end up getting the interface for the town.
And big kudos to folks. This website is a vast improvement. I mean, we still got a few bugs we need to work out of it, but it's a vast improvement over where we were, which will kind of. I've got council members. If there are no other comments, I've got just a couple I'd like to bring up real quickly.
So is that a C? The letter C?
No, it's C-S-E-E. Say again.
C-S-E-E.
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 SEE.
All right.
Council members, I've had a couple of people who've expressed a little bit of confusion with looking at events on our website. We have I don't want to, I can pull it up and we can go through that demonstration, but we have one that says Louisville events. We have one that says Louisville special events. And then we have, I believe, one that takes you to meetings. Hank, what I'm real interested in and would like to get the rest of the council's thoughts on this. We really need just one place where if people click on it, they can get all, oh, and then there's also nonprofit calendar. So we basically have 4 calendars cranking or 3 calendars cranking. Is there a way that we can do one place where it just basically is Louisville programs and events? And they go to that, they're going to get all the programs at the community center. They're going to get all the events in the square. They're going to get any of the other events that we want to list. And then is there one, the meetings separately? Because I think while some folks are interested in the meetings, I think the events are really going to be the big deal.
If it's operating how it should, the Town of Louisville calendar has a filter. You can look at all events on the filter, or you can filter it out for meetings or recreational events. And we do have a separate calendar that has been set up, and it's been a number of years in existence for nonprofits to be able to get in and list their events separately. So if you have an interest in looking at the calendar and making suggestions on what you would see, like think would be a good thing to change, certainly send those to us and we'll take a look at it.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, tonight trying to get to this meeting myself, I found it rather hard to find the calendar, which used to be up on the top and the right hand side. Now maybe on a slider or something, as Mike mentioned, but the way I had to get to here tonight was to go to government and, if you will, the town council meetings, go that route, and then pull up a calendar for tonight under town council to be able to, to find the link to get here. So that, it was different. It wasn't all that hard, but that calendar is not where it was in the new website, okay? And not readily usable as it was in the old website. So
understood.
Yeah, I'm afraid I had the same problem. And I would get to the calendar and it would say, the council meeting, but it wouldn't give information as to how to log on. And I finally found it, but I really couldn't repeat how I finally got to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we have feedback, you're saying send you an email.
And send me an email, and then we'll take a look at the specifics of what your issues are.
Yeah. Again, let me just reiterate, the website is a huge improvement over where we were. And I just think because we are going to have so many classes and programs going on at the community center, we really need to have a way where folks can have that front and center, click on that month, and know what those programs and classes and events are. So
we do have another format or platform that we're going to be using for recreation programs and events. It's called RecDesk. That is not currently integrated into the website. Once it does, it's going to be a very holistic view of things going, at least as far as rentals and programs at the community centers and the parks. So that is going to be exactly what Mike's talking about. You'll be able to see the calendar for every single event or program that offering that may be at anything that we have.
That's great. It's fabulous. Ms. Walker, I see your hand above your head.
Yeah, because only half my head. I just wanted to remind everyone that when I send out the agenda, since it is PDF format, if you can't find it on the calendar, you can always click on the link on that on the agenda, and that should get you to us right away.
Council members, anything else? Ms. Hunt.
Yeah, just a suggestion, Hank. I know with a lot of websites, when they get pushed out, there's user testing. It may be advantageous to reach out to some of the boards and committees or some of these individuals that have been participating in our community groups and things to see if there can be 10 or so people that can do some user testing. My understanding with Tim was that they would kind of coordinate some of that. So just to kind of remind that user testing may be appropriate on this site since we pushed it out.
Please.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion. Anything else, council? Well, let's finish the meeting with a couple of things that that will warm the cockles of your heart. Let's see if I've got a shared screen, and I do. The first one, council members, if you remember, the Shallowford Foundation had appropriated $25,000 for the year 2022 to support and fund programs and activities at our community center. They've gone through their first series of grant applications, and these are the 13 groups and organizations that will be receiving grants. I'm blown away when I look at the quality of this. The Salem Band, the Renolda House, the Arts Council with programming for adults and children and families, the Winston-Salem Symphony will be coming out and doing musical things. Forsyth Tech will do their personal enrichment programs. The School of the Arts will do chamber music. The Shepherd Center will have classes for older adults. The Interfaith Alliance, the SECA, North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, the Action Arts Council. I mean, I am just absolutely astounded by the caliber and quality of programs that we will have starting in 2022. And again, we will have, once we get our rec desk set up, there'll be opportunities for folks to register and get more information about this. But huge, huge, huge thank you to the Shallowford Foundation for funding this. It's beyond my imagination, the caliber of events that we're going to be having, in addition to a number of other arts and crafts activities that Stacy Howard is starting to coordinate. Finally, as you know, we were, now I've got to find her because I know she's here. Don't go anywhere. There she is. We were concerned that Mary Alice would potentially be exposed to way too many people at an opening. And so we arranged for, actually Savannah Village arranged for her to come over this last week to have her own private tour. And now let's see if I can pull that picture up. And if I can't, I will really, really be disappointed because I know it's there. Oh, this is heartbreaking. How can I do this? Well, not to, let me try one more time. It's a lovely picture of, well, how disappointing.
I wish I could have the picture open on your computer, Mayor.
I do.
And it won't let you share the screen to that screen?
And it's not letting me share this screen. Let me try.
1 second, Mayor.
Okay. Oh, never mind. Here we are. For some strange reason, it just popped up. Explain to it. There were Hank coming up. There we go.
Oh, look at that.
This was we did the reveal for her and Jack's plaque above the fireplace, and she sat there, and I could tell she was visibly moved because her I could see her eyes. Mary Alice does not cry, but I could see her eyes get teary, and she was very moved by this, and she had a full tour of all the meeting rooms and all the patios and all the back porches and all the things. And thank you for the folks of Iona Village for arranging that visit. It was safe and secure, and the next day, I received 3 phone calls from Mary Alice talking about how wonderful the community center was, how meaningful and special it was for her to have that moment to go through it and see it. how she stayed awake all night thinking about all the different rooms and all the possibilities and all the opportunities, and how her mother and dad would be so proud of what became of their farm and how it would be such a great legacy for Louisville. So that's kind of the stop share. Anyway, so on that, council members, I hope it filled your heart. It certainly fills my heart. Any other business that needs to come before the council this evening? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, moved.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion.
Second.
Dr. Sadler makes the second. Council members, thank you all for your participation, your attendance, your thoughtful comments as always. Mr. Smitherman, we have a motion and a second.
Night.
Ms. Welch.
Unmute, Jane.
Jane, you were so flummoxed you forgot to unmute. And you're still muted. There we go.
There, I've got it. Thank you. Yeah, the dogs are barking. A great way to end the night with Mary Alice in that picture. Thank you so much for sharing that. And my vote is aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
By the way, Dr. Sadler, you know you're wearing the same suit and tie tonight that you are in your static picture.
No, I'm not. This is a different one.
Oh, is it? Okay. Very good. Council members, again, thank you. We are adjourned.